Hi guys, and welcome to this video today. I hope you are all doing well. Thank you so much once again for joining me on my channel. Just to let you know guys, I'm now trying to upload a video every 2 weeks approximately on this channel for you. I am studying and also working full time, and if you guys want to actually go and check out my study channel, it's called Finance at 40. You'll see my study vlogs on there, but just to let you know, there's a lot going on. However, I'm going to try to keep with a pace of a video approximately every 2 weeks for you guys. Anyway, let's get into today's case. So today we are going to be going to the country of New Zealand. I don't believe I have covered a case in that country on my channel before actually, so it is a first. This case actually takes place in New Zealand and also in the UK, so it's what I call a split country case, which I've done a few like that before on my channel, and also Iran actually. Okay, so today's case we are going to be speaking about Dr. Zholia Alemi. So we're going to go back a little bit, as always in these cases, to find out first of all who is Dr. Zholia Alemi. Now, we don't know a lot about her actual childhood and things like that, because when this case starts up, I believe that Zholia is already in her 20s or 30s, so we don't have a lot about her childhood and things like that, but I'll try to give you guys, as always, as much information as I can. So Zholia was born in 1962, actually in Iran, and in the early 90s, I believe around 1990, 1991, she decided to actually relocate to New Zealand. And when she went to New Zealand, she obtained a bachelor's degree in human biology from the University of Auckland in 1992. And from that point, she then decided that she wanted to study medicine. Okay, so essentially what happened is she did her first year of medicine and she passed it at the second attempt. So she actually had to take her exams twice to pass the first year of medicine. Now, obviously, medicine is a subject that is extremely tough. So initially, when you see, okay, she failed the first year, she had to retake, it's not uncommon that people have to retake their first year. So initially we could go into this thinking, okay, it is what it is. She then hit her second year of medicine at the University of Auckland and she didn't pass. And from that second year, she dropped out of university. So essentially, she left the University of Auckland in New Zealand with no degree in medicine. Okay, for some reason Zholia Alemi had in her head that she wants to practice as a doctor. She's not bothered whether she's got the qualifications or she's got a degree in medicine or a master's or whatever. She doesn't care. So in 1995 she decided that she was gonna relocate to the UK, and she's like, I'm just going to practice as a doctor in the UK. Now, you guys are thinking, okay, how can you practice as a doctor if you haven't even got a degree in medicine? Never mind the amount of years that doctors have to study, which are years and years and years. It could be 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, even 13 years for some doctors. And she hasn't got anything. And this is where Zholia was like, I'm going to forge my degree. I'm going to forge my degree certificate, right? So she arrives in the UK in 1995 and she's forged her qualification, essentially, that she's got this degree in medicine, okay? And she forged this to the GMC Council. Now, the GMC Council, guys, in the UK is the General Medical Council, and any doctor that practices in the UK, whether it's NHS, privately, whatever, they must be registered with the GMC. A doctor who is not registered with the GMC in the UK cannot practice it. And it's the same with nurses. They also have to register to the nursing equivalent. I've forgotten the name now, but it's the nursing equivalent. And if you are not registered to these organisations in the UK, you cannot legally practice medicine. So she's forged this qualification certificate thing to the General Medical Council. Now, when you see the certificate, I think I've got an image of it, she hasn't even spelled verify properly on there. And you would think someone who's graduated with a degree in medicine can actually spell, because before you do a degree in medicine, guys, you need to have certain A levels, you need to have obtained GCSE English, There's certain qualifications you need to do. You can't just go to university and do a degree in medicine. And those that go in and do a degree in medicine, they have had very high A-level grades. They've got like distinctions, merits and things like that in their grades. You can't just go to university and do medicine. Anyone who's done medicine will know it doesn't work like that, right? So she's forged this. The certificate is not even spelt properly, and I still question to this day, and I think a lot of people questioned it, that how did the General Medical Council, because they are so thorough, well, they're supposed to be, in verifying these certificates, especially because it's international, they didn't even realise it's not even spelt properly on the qualification. Like, anyway, so she's gone through the General Medical Council. They've somehow approved this qualification. They haven't checked with the organisations. I don't know who it is in New Zealand that checks this. There must be some equivalent to the GMC, but they haven't even bothered to contact that equivalent in New Zealand, like liaise with them, send them an email, whatever, to check that this woman actually has this qualification, because it's medicine at the end of the day. It's not just like, okay, business management or whatever. It's a very stringent field. So in 1996, Zholia, now she's allowed to practice medicine in the UK. She goes to Northern Ireland and she does a year in an NHS hospital in Northern Ireland practicing medicine. And after that first year, the GMC the GMC decides to grant Zholia like full, what we call GMC registration status. Essentially, she can fully practice medicine in the UK. So now, from 1997, Zholia is accredited, qualified guys, as a psychiatrist in the UK from 1997. And what that means, because the GMC approved it, and you'll see, guys, I'll keep referring back to the GMC because they approved it. She's now allowed to work anywhere in the UK as a qualified psychiatrist. This woman who completed the first year of a medical degree and dropped out of uni in 1995 in Auckland, New Zealand. Okay, so what happens is over the next 20 years, Zholia is kind of what I call bouncing around different NHS trusts in the UK. And you would think these NHS trusts liaise with each other because it's the NHS, it's not private, this is public sector healthcare. So really, the NHS trust should be communicating information with each other. But it seems, based on how the case is, that there hasn't really been that level of communication, if any, between the different NHS trusts. So she's now working as a psychiatrist. Now, she is what's called a locum psychiatrist, a bit like a locum doctor, essentially. So she's one of those psychiatrists that is like there to fill in for other psychiatrists. So maybe a psychiatrist is off sick or they're on leave or something, Zholia steps in to cover. And that's why she's going between different NHS trusts and different roles in different locations as well. Now, initially I thought maybe that's why it was so hard to work out this kind of scam that she's pulling, because she's moving around so much. She's like filling in these roles here, there and everywhere. But irregardless, her professional sort of timeline should still be followed. If she's going from one NHS trust to another, they should be checking, okay, how were her credentials at the previous NHS trust? And there should be a level of communication between the trusts, but this is not what's going on. There is zero communication. So she's bouncing around over the 20 years between the different trusts, okay? In 2003, she decides to register, she becomes a member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists. Now, to become a member of the Royal College of Psychiatrists, you have to take more exams. You know, like it's where doctors, when they want to do something else, they've got to take exams, or to keep their credentials up to date, you've got to take other exams and courses, right? So this is no different. So to become a member, you have to take 2 exams, and they're like in 2 parts. You've got like part 1 and part 2. So part 1 of this exam, she only passed it after the 4th attempt, and then she does part 2 and she passes it after the 3rd attempt. Now you'd think someone who'd actually been practicing, okay, as a psychiatrist since 1997, and we're now in 2003, so a good 6 years, I would think, how can that person only pass part 1 of an exam to be registered with the Royal College of Psychiatrists after 4 attempts, and part 2 after 3 attempts, because you have now been practicing as a psychiatrist for 6 years. And that in itself, I mean, again guys, these are medical exams, okay, but you've been practicing as a psychiatrist for 6 years. Would you struggle that much to actually pass the exam if you're actually a practicing psychiatrist? Really? In 2012, the Royal College of Psychiatrists recommend her for a special entry into the GMC on the basis that she has a disability, okay? Now, it's said that she has autism. However, she's never ever even once had a formal diagnosis as being autistic. So obviously she is supposed to be a doctor herself. So again, it makes you think, would you not go, and then if you've got colleagues that are doctors as well, just go and get a formal diagnosis of autism if you think that you may have autism and you are a practicing doctor yourself? But she never does that. But for some reason, the Royal College of Psychiatrists recommend her for this special entry onto the GMC register that she has a disability, even though she's never had a formal diagnosis of being autistic, right? So you can see, guys, all these inconsistencies, and the GMC and the Royal College of Psychiatrists, again, they haven't done their homework. I mean, honestly, the amount of flaws and errors and failures on their part and the NHS's part is just shocking in this case. Now, people at this stage, you guys might be thinking as well that, okay, this is all good and well. This woman's forging all her qualifications. She's practicing as a psychiatrist. She's not one in this. But what people tend to forget is that this woman has patients. She's a doctor, right? And psychiatrists can obviously prescribe medication. They are legally authorised to section patients as well under the Mental Health Act. And they have a lot of responsibility, healthcare wise and legally, to their patients and to society. And this is what the problem is with this case. Well, I mean, say the problem that with this case, this is something that becomes very serious with this case and what this woman is doing, okay? So from 2012 onwards, she starts to get complaints that arise every so often. It said over the years she had about 9 complaints, which in all honesty, I feel like is very minimal, okay? It's very minimal considering what the situation is, to be honest with you. There was one NHS trust where she had 164 patients under her care, and this is just one NHS trust. This woman, bearing in mind she practiced for over 22 years with the NHS, and this is one trust, guys, okay, where she had 164 patients under her care, and God knows what was going on with those patients. There was a point where she gave the formal order to detain over 24 patients on the NHS and have them sectioned, right, guys? Which again is very serious. She had 24 patients sectioned against their will under the Mental Health Act. Now, obviously, if you are a qualified psychiatrist, this is a very thorough healthcare plan that you've put in place for a patient that you've decided to have sectioned. If you are Zholia Alemi, God knows what's been going on in your brain, and you have now sectioned 24 patients against their will under the Mental Health Act, which you shouldn't even be dealing with, right? There are 89 patients where she had to testify in different kind of cases and provide her input as a psychiatrist for 89 patients, I believe, in different kind of court cases with these patients from a psychiatric view. And I'm thinking, like, how is this even possible? This woman was involved in court cases for 89 patients giving a psychiatrist's opinion. Can you imagine? And then bearing in mind, this woman is prescribing medications to patients as well, not knowing how these medications even work. Now, when I initially discovered this case, it was about a year ago, I kept thinking, how is someone who has no medical qualifications prescribing medication? How have her patients not had an overdose or anything like that? Bearing in mind, she doesn't know anything about the medications she's prescribing. She's not actually a doctor. She's not a qualified psychiatrist. So it's like, yes, obviously you can read the leaflets in medications, but how do you know about all these medications? And it's not like there's just 2 or 3 medications. There's hundreds of medications she could prescribe to her patients for these different psychological conditions potentially that they've got, right? And I thought, okay, none of her patients have had any adverse effects with the medication. None of them have died. And I thought, this is quite shocking. And suddenly, that is where I came across a patient that had died under her care. And I thought, here we go. She didn't know what she was prescribing to the patient. And now there is someone who passed away under her care. In 2017, Darren King was under the care of Zholia Alemi, and he was prescribed medication by her. Now, it's said that Darren's parents had a lot of concerns about the way Zholia was behaving. And remember, guys, I did say earlier that she'd had 9 different complaints which were being investigated, right? So Darren's parents, they found Zholia's behaviour really weird, and they wanted to bring it forward to an inquest investigation that was going on to do with Zholia, right? So Darren's been given this medication. I don't know what the name of the medication was exactly, but he's been given this medication to take. Darren's mum said that, you know, she didn't really like her son taking baths because she was always concerned that he, you know, something could happen. He wasn't very stable, and she wasn't sure how the medication would interact with him, and that she was scared of him potentially drowning if he took a bath. Like, she preferred him to just go and take a shower and then, you know, go in and out of the shower. So there was no additional potential risk, right? And unfortunately, what Darren's mum said and what her concerns were came true, because in 2017, Darren decided to take a bath and he drowned in the bath. He had a seizure in the bath. His parents couldn't get to the bathroom quick enough, and he drowned in the bath from a seizure, right? And this was due to the fact that Zholia Alemi had prescribed some kind of medication which had caused these side effects and caused Darren to have a seizure in the bath, and sadly Darren lost his life. Now, prior to Darren's death, Zholia had been suspended for a year because all these other complaints were going on. She had weird behaviours, it said, with her colleagues, with some patients. Colleagues had gone to, you know, their senior management in different NHS trusts and been like, that, you know, she's behaving weirdly with us, like there's something that's wrong. So they had tried to raise these red flags, and there was investigations going on in actual fact. But it, you know, it's like where the NHS was dragging its feet, even though there were 9 complaints ongoing about her, which, how can there be that many complaints ongoing about one doctor? Maybe there's 1 or whatever, but this many at the same time through the NHS is quite unusual. Okay, so she had been suspended between, I think, 2012 and 2017 for a period of 1 year, and then she was allowed to work again. And over the whole 20 years that she worked, 20 years plus, I think it was 22 years altogether, she earned approximately £1.3 million, okay? Now, in 2018, this obviously went to court, and the judge, one of the clauses in the outcome of the court case was that Zholia had to repay over £400,000, and it said that it was only £400,000 that she had to repay from what she'd earned from the NHS, because that's all that she had left or something like that. That's all that the government could reclaim. So yeah, one of the clauses was that she had to repay this £400,000 back to the government. And the other outcome to the case was that Zholia was sentenced to 7 years in prison. She was convicted of forgery, fraud, falsification of medical documentation, etc. But it is shocking that she didn't get a sentence for like 2nd-degree murder or manslaughter. Like, Darren has lost his life needlessly, and the cause of his loss of life is the fact that Zholia had prescribed him medication. It said that Darren himself was actually autistic, and Zholia has taken advantage of a vulnerable person in a delicate psychological state and given him medication which has potentially caused his death. Like, that is a murder inquest, right? So I don't understand how this woman in 2023 only got sentenced to 7 years in prison and has to repay £400,000. She got sentenced in 2023, so she's only got another 5 years to serve, guys, and then she's going to be out. Like, what's she going to do? Then she's going to go to another country and invent herself another personality and do whatever. Like, this is crazy. It said that after this case, the GMC went through 3,000 doctors' profiles that were registered on their register at the GMC to check documents from Pakistan, from the US and other countries that doctors had used to register at the GMC. And as yet, I didn't see that anything as negative or bad has come back from documents for other doctors that had registered. But it's like, because someone provides you as the General Medical Council with a qualification, you don't even send one email to that person's university just to confirm, okay, we've received this document, can you just confirm the authenticity of this document and the graduation number, for example, of this person? Like, how difficult is that in the times that we live in to just send an email just to clarify confirmation? Like, even when someone applies for a job, you ask for references and things like that, and that's even for a basic admin job or job in a restaurant or whatever, you ask for references. How are the General Medical Council not doing that? And so this woman's practiced for over 20 years as a psychiatrist, and then a patient has died on her watch. Like, what the actual fuck? Just to clarify, guys, it's still to this point not been proven that Zholia has autism, yeah? It's still not been proven to this point. I'll be honest with you, I don't think she has autism. I think she has narcissistic traits and she's a murderer. That's what my personal opinion is. By the way she's gone about things, and she's taken advantage of someone who is autistic, which is extremely serious, okay? Doctors, nurses that have autism, I've actually worked with some before, and they're actually really, really good people that do their job very, very well. They don't have these behaviours like Zholia did, or does, and it is shocking. It just creates a bad name for people that may have autism and practice in these clinical professions, and I just don't think 7 years is enough. And I honestly, like, I feel so bad for the parents of this young man, and he was 31 when he lost his life. He had his whole life ahead of him, and he's lost his life because of this woman. Let me know down below, guys, if you heard of this case. It was circulating a lot in the press. I mean, she was sentenced in 2023, but I feel like it circulated a lot in the press in the UK last year in 2024 because of the fact she worked for the NHS. So let me know if you guys have heard of this case, if you've heard of more information about this case and patients that may have come forward in regards to her, etc., if you've heard anything. As always, you can leave case suggestions, international case suggestions for me down below, and I will see you again soon for another video.